So the Republicans and more seem to think that, maybe since our entire campaign strategy of calling Joe Biden both a puppet master and an old man is now out the window because Joe Biden's no longer the nominee. They are desperately seeking something new to run on. And they already had to have a team meeting and say, we cannot be overt about racism. And they're searching around the stuff about like the cultural war against women and feminism who didn't want to have children or couldn't have children. That sort of flopped. So what do you do when you're a Republican? Well, you go back to the old standby. And that is, of course, transphobia for the Republicans. Here is Donald Trump at an Atlanta rally. I imagine everybody knows the story of Iman Khalif now. She is a boxer from Algeria. And she beat an Italian woman. I think she just clinched the bronze medal today.
A bronze, yeah. You can get, there's apparently the two losers get a bronze with the way that the system's set up.
And, but the Italian woman, I'm not a boxing expert, but people who follow boxing, like, she dropped her hands and she got punched in the face. She quit. Fine. I don't think anybody should be boxing, frankly. But she said, I'd never been hit that hard before. And Khalif is, at least genetically, what is known as intersex, supposedly has an XY chromosome.
And that's, I would underline.
And that's arguable.
Yeah.
But that is a ruling of one boxing association, which apparently much of the world no longer recognizes, had determined. In the Olympics, at least in terms of boxing, they go by what's on your passport. In Algeria, you're not allowed to be transgender. There is no way to change your gender on official government documents. It is consistent with your birth gender. So according to Algeria, and according to, I guess, I don't know if we know for sure, but according to her, she has a uterus. She's definitely not transgender. She identifies as a woman, and so does in Algeria.
And there's pictures of her as a little girl.
But that doesn't stop the right, and others apparently, from trying to make this a campaign issue. I give you Donald Trump.
If Kamala Harris gets in, the travesty that is taking place at the Paris Olympics will come to America when we host the Los Angeles Olympics. And by the way, which I was president, we happened to get it. I was the president. I also got you a thing called the World Cup, which is coming very soon.
Percentage of people there know what the World Cup is.
Also, check out that packed house.
It's a little sparse up top, isn't it? And that's the same place where Harris was, right? And they, I noticed they took a lot more down by the dais too. They took a lot more space, but wow, there's some big.
Even in the middle, even in the lower rows, there's some rows out there.
Wow, that's okay. Well, all right, maybe the tickets were expensive.
It myself, because nobody else will say it, but I got them both, and you're going to have a lot of fun with it, I hope. Harris is a radical trans activist, and she is the candidate of letting men beat up women in the name of tolerance. But you look at what's happening over in Paris, it will never happen here. I will never let it happen. I will get all males off your daughter's soccer teams and volleyball teams and get them out of your locker rooms once and for all. That's going to be cleaned up, and we will.
How many people in that stadium, convention hall, whatever it is, go, oh, thank God because we have so many males on my daughter's soccer team. Like, they all think they know somebody who has that problem in a neighboring school.
He's training them all to, like, to the extent that they watch any sort of Little League, it's going to be as some sort of freak paranoid looking for some sort of person trying to pass.
We have already talked about the implications of this. And we have a couple of examples of kids having to have their genitalia inspected to make sure that they're actually girls. The idea that they're having to return to the transphobia, the only thing I can tell you, as horrific as it is for trans people, because they're going to be subject to, the next wave of, and I don't know that it really actually, the last one subsided in any meaningful manner, of hateful transphobia. It's going to inspire more, right-wing legislatures to pass legislation, because you can get away with this in red states. I mean, 15 years ago, you could get away with passing anti-Sharia laws because they were afraid that, Indiana was become a no-go state or something, because there was going to be so much. You can do this if you're in deep red country, or just red country. But as an electoral matter, this is not helpful for the Republicans. They dumped $50 million into Michigan in 2022, and it failed. And this is why, but why are the Republicans talking about this? Is because it gives them something to sort of shift the conversation. And why are we talking about it? Is just so that A, we can point out they're desperate. They're trying to change the conversation. And B, the reason why we talk about it is to remind you that A, there is no electoral salience for this issue at all. And B, this is a question of human rights. Here is Francesca Fiorentini on ostensibly a progressive show, making the argument that this is all BS. But apparently, even after 2022, where we know the implications of this electorally, some people still haven't gotten the message.
So, first of all, when you have an extreme position, you have an extreme position that says, no, we don't ever ask anyone. And I think the Olympics position is actually absurd. They don't do any genetic testing. They don't do any testing. So you could, since they don't do any testing at all, you can just walk in, call yourself a female, not be trans. Trans people are actually...
Do it, Jane. Do it.
Okay, yeah, all right. Well, you could say it, but then what's going to happen?
Closet, incidentally, just as a factual matter, this is not true. In boxing, the IOC just requires a passport that says your gender. If your passport says you're male and you walk in there, now, I don't know how you walk into the Olympics. I'm pretty good at softball, but I don't think I could just walk into the Olympics. I'm not bad at archery, but I don't think I could walk into the Olympics and, get on the American. There's, incidentally, all of these teams, there are organizations that police these questions in their home countries. In Algeria, again, you cannot be transgender. There is no passport that you can get that says female unless you were born female.
And there's pictures of her as a little girl.
Yes. But I'm just talking about the factual matter.
Right.
The Olympics just say walk in. No, the Olympics basically defer to international organizations that create the rules for different sports. Now, you could say, well, that organization is, I don't like this organization. I don't like that organization. I like the way they do it with that one. But as a factual matter, the idea that you can walk into the Olympics as a woman and play men's basketball is obviously absurd. In fact, you can't walk into the Olympics even if you're a man and play men's basketball because there's a process.
Do it.
Okay, yeah, all right. Well, you could say it, but then what's going to happen?
Rugby,
Somebody's going to do it,
play rugby.
and they're going to get away with it, and then everybody's going to be furious. Okay, it's all right. I can't stand it, and it doesn't help trans people at all to have these extreme positions. Oh, yeah. Don't test anyone. Just take their word for it. I think it's terrible politics.
It's not an extreme position. It comes from a position of human rights, and it does help all
It's not a human right to compete in the other genders'
What you see
sport.
there is when what you just saw are women, are biological women, being attacked for being trans because of the anti-trans athletic narrative that has already festered and has now come for these women. And so what are the women to do? Say, I'm not a man. In fact, screw, I'm not a trans man. Are you kidding me? No. We all stand in solidarity together. That's how we actually fight the right when it comes to their bull crap culture wars that lead nowhere. And it doesn't serve. Look, I understand, Cenk. You're in the majority. I'm in the minority. Most people disagree that trans athletes should participate in Olympic sports. Most people don't agree with me. But hell, man, I'm willing to stand on a hill that is unpopular and fight for people and for their human rights.
Yeah, look, we could spend an hour debating this, and I have in the past. But when...
Not really, though.
Yeah.
Not really. Not really debate, more of an agreement.
Okay, whatever. I'm happy to debate anybody about it. I think I don't agree.
Okay.
And you're never going to get me to agree by saying it's the left-wing position. It's the pro-trans position. I don't think it's a pro-trans position at all.
You should just offer a platform.
Okay.
You don't have to agree.
All right. So when your opponent is in the middle of doing something radical, step out of the way and let them do it instead of stepping in the way and saying, hey, I'm more radical. Okay, I think it's terrible politics. It's terrible for trans people.
First of all right, we don't need to go further. There's absolutely zero data points to support the idea that defending trans people is bad politics. You can look at polls that say whatever, 50%, 60%, 70%, 80% of people think that biological, that people born as a man assigned the gender of a man at birth should not be playing softball or whatever it is. But as an electoral matter, people don't care. At the end of the day, people don't care. I mean, we have seen much, in some instances, to my dismay and others' dismay, 70, 80% of people want gun control. But point to me an election that has turned on it. It's just not high enough on people's priorities in terms of when it comes to voting. Trans for normal people, i.e. non-cultural warrior right-wingers. Trans issues are number 25 on the list of things that they would vote for or vote upon, because for the most part, people are like, it doesn't affect me. And it doesn't seem to affect, it's one thing to say, okay, we're going to allow sporting associations to police their sports. And I'm going to lobby the sports organization to do this, or I'm going to lobby the sports organization to do that. But I don't know what difference it makes if you were born you were assigned a female gender at birth, and you've chosen male gender, at age 25. I don't know how that impacts your archery. Let the Archery Association figure it out. But to make it a political issue, to accept that it's a political issue, is a right-wing frame. I don't care if you think that no trans people should be allowed to play in, shot put or whatever it is. But when you start talking about it as a political issue, you just have there's zero support. That's just you playing out some type of fantasy in your head.
Yeah, we need to respond to a hypothetical Joanna Man scenario when we have actually a real situation staring us in the face. And guess what? It's the right wing being hysterical about this once again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I just resent the constant, the left needs to get their shit together. No, some of the people in the media need to get their shit together.
Yeah. Mama Feastalies, I can't pronounce that. I'd like to point out trans people have been allowed in the Olympics for over 20 years, and we have yet to dominate like Jenkins fear-mongering about. Not a single medal has gone to a trans person playing in a different gender from their AGAP. I don't know what that stands for, but their gender assigned at birth. Oh, that's what it is. It doesn't help trans people, says the cis guy who's demonstrated his ignorance multiple times. Jenkins pretending to be an ally to be transphobic, utterly vile. Nova, this is also the perfect issues to call the Republicans weird on. 100%. When Donald Trump says to a stadium full of people, I'm going to be the one who gets that male off your girls' soccer team, 85% of the country just goes like, what are you talking about, dude? And the other 15%, the majority of those just think they know somebody. In fact, not just the majority, almost every single 9.9 out of 10.
And I find the argument kind of hard to it seems like a bit of a logical reach, and I guess I might be giving them too much credit here, but the idea of pinning this on Kamala Harris, that an Algerian boxer fighting an Italian boxer at a world athletic event is somehow in some way a referendum on Kamala Harris and Joe Biden's stewardship of what exactly?
No, this is talking about there's a caravan forming in, Paraguay.
Yeah, right.
And it's going to be here in 9 months.
On election day.
And it's absurd. We got to talk about this. If we don't talk about it, the Democrats going to lose. Give me a break. Jesus. Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.